Joining us now, without further ado, Matt Boyle. He is the political editor for the brazen news site, Breitbart. Hey, got to get that app. Got to download that Breitbart app. Just tap it. All the news right at your fingertips. No fake news either. They give it to you straight. Matt, it's great to have you, man.
Hey, John. What's going on, brother?
Now, it's been a little while since you've been on, so we're excited to have you on. And let's start with the Koch brothers. They have their retreat in Colorado Springs. And, you know, we know a lot of them, Matt. I mean, AFP are good people, Americans for Prosperity. I know many of them a long time. Many of their executives, I know Tim Phillips. I would consider him a very good friend of mine. They're great people. And, you know, they've been very successful in a lot of areas. That go to their Colorado Springs donor meeting. And basically, one of the Koch brothers says, well, you know, this trade policy of the president's not fair to foreign workers. Is this a typo or what?
Remarkable, right? Like, I mean, why are they interested in protecting foreigners, not Americans, right? Like, I mean, they should be interested in helping Americans. But that isn't good for business for the Koch brothers. So look, the Koch brothers and their various organizations, you mentioned a couple of them, they've done a lot for conservatives and for the Republican Party over the years. But because of the fact that the president is really standing up for American workers on these different policies, they're now openly talking about electing Democrats. They're not only standing up for foreign workers, they're talking about backing Democrats in elections. So look, if they're decided that they're leaving the Republican Party and going and joining the Democrat Party or doing some in-between thing, that's their decision. But the fact of the matter is that the movement is still here. It's still fighting for everything that President Trump stands for. It's still fighting for what the grassroots believes in, and it's a pretty sad day, I think, to see the Koch brothers really show their true faces as globalists, as President Trump called them on Twitter yesterday.
Well, I think you didn't have a choice. I mean, it's just astonishing to me that, and you know, they've been with us on the tax cut situation, and they've been with us on some other, you know, very important issues. But I think the statement of saying that it's not fair to foreign workers. Now, this president got elected on a platform of putting Americans and American workers first, right? I think he's equivocated on that. So, Matt, that was an incredible statement to me. And, you know, the problem, Matt, and tell me if I'm wrong with this, with these never-Trumpers, is they keep doubling and doubling and doubling and tripling down over and over and over, thinking that at some point it's all going to implode and they can get their Marco Rubio back, or their Marco Bot back, or their Jeb Bush back. Yeah. Matt, don't you agree with me that the Republican Party is now changed forever? And if it hadn't been for Trump, I think the Republican Party, as we knew it pre-Trump, was going the way of the Whigs.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And look, the fact of the matter is, the never-Trumpers' delusional alternative reality that they live in is just that. It's a delusional alternative reality. Marco Rubio will never be president in the United States. Sorry to inform you people of that. It was never going to happen. And the reason being, Jeb Bush was never going to win. And, you know, all of these different open borders guys that they try to push and they try to jam down people's throats, it's just not popular. People don't like it. And so the voters have rejected this stuff time and again. And now we're seeing the actual Republican Party really start to change. And by the way, there's some of these forces that are starting to fight back against that. Look, we've seen in these primaries all across the country, right? Like, I mean, there are Trump-like candidates winning nominations for the Republican Party for statewide office, for House office, for Senate office, for governor's mansions, et cetera, in every state across the country this year. I mean, I can't point to, with the exception of Mitt Romney carpetbagging his way into Utah to try to come back to the national stage in that U.S. Senate race, with the exception of Romney in Utah, there's not a single race this year I can point to where there isn't a Trump candidate at the top of the Republican on the Republican ticket across the country. It's amazing. Right, so what we've seen is the MAGA candidates, so to speak, have taken the mantle of the Republican Party all across the United States. This is Donald Trump's party. It's a party of economic nationalism. It's not a party of the globalists. It's not a party of the people that stand up for foreign workers. And again, it's really simple. And by the way, President Trump's actual trade policies are working. Look at the deal that he was able to negotiate, or at least the preliminary outline and sketch of an outline of a deal, and I know the specifics are all going to get worked out later, with the European Union Commission president there, Jean-Claude Juncker. Okay, that was because President Trump stood up. You don't see Fords and Chevys getting driven around the German country. American soybeans are not sold into Europe right now, but they're going to be because of what President Trump did by standing up on tariffs to the Europeans. So now we actually have a system that's coming, and a better deal for American workers and American companies, where because President Trump used this authority of the presidency, used this tariff thing, and used it very smartly in negotiating with the Europeans, he's able to work out a deal where the Europeans are now going to buy American cars and American soybeans, among other American products, which is great for us. We do support trade policy, fair trade, free trade, when it actually is fair and free. Okay, but the problem has been is that the Europeans have been ripping us off for a long time. Like I said, you don't see American Fords and Chevys getting driven around the German countryside right now, but that's about to change, because we're going to be able to get our products over there because President Trump actually fought for a level playing field. Lo and behold, no president has done this in the last 50 years. So thank God we actually have somebody that's willing to do it.
I mean, this hasn't been done in probably 70 years. You really have to go back a long time.
Yep.
So we're with Matt Boyle. He's the political editor of Breitbart News. Download their app. Go there every day. Breitbart.com. Breitbart.com. But, Matt, you're right. This is now the party of Trump. And to think it took basically 18 months since he's been in office. I mean, if you look at the primary in Georgia, and I know you're kind of like me. You know all these guys. Casey Cagle, good guy. Lieutenant Governor Brian Kemp, Secretary of State. But Kemp was the MAGA candidate. He was espousing the America First policies as governor for Georgia. The president came out, backed him on the day of the primary. It was tied. Pence sent a tweet out on the weekend, went down and campaigned for him. The race was tied for months. Kemp wins by 44 points. I mean, in one day. I mean, what does that tell you?
It wasn't even close. It was like 70% victory, right? Like, it was a blowout. And the Georgia governor's race is actually a really good example, right? Like, because everybody thought Casey Cagle was going to win. And by the way, I think Casey Cagle's a nice guy. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate him. He came on Breitbart. We talked to him about different things. He stood up to the left when in the wake of the Parkland shooting down in Florida, right? Like when the NRA was cutting business deals with different people. He actually did a great job on that. But the fact of the matter is, stylistically, he's not with the president, right? Like Brian Kemp is. And look at the way that Brian Kemp ran those ads. I mean, he had an ad in Georgia where he had a shotgun laying across his. He was like cleaning a shotgun or something, right? Like, and he's interviewing a young man who'd like to date his daughter about his values in favor of the Second Amendment. It was awesome, right? Like,
that's a great ad.
We need candidates like this across the country, and we're seeing that, right? Look at Tennessee. Okay, Bob Corker's retiring. And who's taking his place? It's Marshall Blackburn. Marshall Blackburn's done a fantastic job fighting for American workers on trade and immigration policy in the U.S. House. So that's going to be an amazing race there. Look at South Carolina. Katie Arrington is replacing Mark Sanford. Mark Sanford was a leading member of the Never Trump movement, right? And Katie Arrington has emerged as a strong voice for President Trump. West Virginia. Patrick Morrisey, the Attorney General there, who's been solidly strong on standing up on the opioid crisis and fighting the drug cartels and so on and so forth, won the Republican nomination over Mitch McConnell's handpicked guy, Evan Jenkins. In addition to that, Matt Rosendale in Montana, he's a state auditor out there. He's fantastic, by the way. I've interviewed Matt Rosendale a dozen times. The guy is a stud. He's a rising star inside the Republican Party, and he has won the Republican nomination against the Mitch McConnell-backed judge for the U.S. Senate against John Tester. I mean, we're seeing this happen everywhere across the country. There's energy on the right, but the question really becomes: is there going to be enough energy in November on the right to be able to withstand the blue energy? And we're seeing the resistance out there too. There's really the rise of two movements in America right now. There's the leftist resistance, and there's our people, the MAGA people. So the question is, can we match the energy on the left? And if we can do that, then the Republicans, A, will hold the House, and B, will add seats in the Senate, and C, will ensure Trump's success in the second part of his first term as president, and then I think he will be well on his way to winning re-election in 2020.
Matt, what are the chances, what you just mentioned, of the Republicans and the Trump voters getting the same type of energy that obviously the progressives have in the Democratic Party? And if you look at the results in Virginia last November and some of these special elections, Alabama, obviously you had it going on. I mean, they're very energized. How do you match that?
Look, I think that right now you flip a coin as to whether or not I think it's about a 50-50 chance either way this can go. But the point is that there's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and the November elections. It's 96 days, I believe, or 97 days right now. We're inside the 100-day mark, but there's a lot of football left to play here, and there's a lot of things that are gonna happen in this time frame that could excite or deflate either side. And so I don't know exactly how it's all going to shape out. I can't see the future, but I can say that I do think there's a good chance that Republicans can do all of this. Now, it's also important to note that despite the fact that the media keeps telling people that there's going to be a blue wave, the Democrats don't need a blue wave to take the House, okay? They just need a ripple. 23 seats isn't a lot, okay? So they could take, that's all they need. The 23 is the magic number. If they flip 23 seats in the House, they take the majority. So it's imperative for Republicans to stay engaged. But if the map looks like it did in 2016, the county-by-county map is what I'm talking about, right? If you remember all that sea of red in the middle and then the coasts were very deep blue, if that's what it looks like this year, I think Republicans will be fine. So that's the question is what does the electorate look like? Who votes? Who's excited? All that type of good stuff. And, again, there is a lot of energy in the resistance left, but in midterm elections, Democrats tend not to vote as much as Republicans. So we'll see. There's all sorts of different things that can happen between now and then. I do not want to predict one way or the other, but I do think there's a darn good chance that conservatives and Republicans and Trump supporters win in November.
John Frederick's Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. We're live in Washington, D.C. at our headquarters here with Matt Boyle. He's the political editor of Breitbart News. Download their app. Go to Breitbart.com. Go on it every day. Matt, let's get to individual Senate races very quickly. We're going to do rapid fire. I want to get your take on where do you think they're going. I'm going to tell you the state and the candidates, and then tell me what you think in about 15 seconds each. Montana, Rosendale, and Matt Rosendale, John Tester, the incumbent.
Yeah, it's a big, great Western, right? Like it's like an old Western, and I think Rosendale is a real rising star in the Republican Party. I think Tester's in serious trouble.
Missouri, Republican challenger Josh Hawley against Air Claire McCaskill.
Air Claire McCaskill is one of the most corrupt people on the planet, and she only the tip of the iceberg started coming out about all of her corruption. Josh Hawley, another rising star inside the Republican Party. I think he's somebody to watch very closely.
Florida, Governor Rick Scott. This is a battle of the heavyweights, right? Governor Rick Scott against Democratic incumbent former astronaut, Senator Bill Nelson. Yeah,
look, Senator Nelson's already losing. A pair of polls out this week have Rick Scott up in the lead over Bill Nelson, and that's another case where, again, Trump supporters are winning going into November. This is a big deal.
In the Dakotas, Kevin Cramer, Republican, didn't get the support of the Koch brothers and the incumbent Democrat Heidi Heitkamp.
I think it's a positive for Kevin Cramer that he didn't get the support of the Koch brothers. I think it proves that he is willing to stand up against the special interests inside the Republican Party for what's right and what the president's agenda is. And that's why he didn't get it, is because he stood up on the trade policy. Again, I think, and by the way, he was an early endorser of President Trump. He broke with the majority of the establishment of the Republican Party to do that. And again, I think Heidi Heitkamp's in serious trouble. I think the people in North Dakota understand that she's not been standing up for the people in North Dakota in the U.S. Senate. She's been standing up for Chuck Schumer and his New York liberal values. So I think that will really come to bear in November. And I think Heidi Heitkamp has to schedule a meeting with Brett Kavanaugh right straight away, and she hasn't done that yet. and she also needs to announce where she's going to vote on Judge Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court.
West Virginia, this is my favorite because I just got back from there the other day. West Virginia, Attorney General Republican Patrick Morrisey challenging incumbent Democrat Joe Manchin.
Yeah, look, Manchin's tough. He does go out there and do a good act of, and sometimes he does support the president and his agenda. He's probably the only Democrat in the Senate that's done that. So Morrissey has to really pick his shots well walking into November. I do think Morrissey has what it takes, though. So I say I've watched him as Attorney General. I've watched him fight these battles, and I think he can do it. So that one's going to be a heavyweight battle of and interesting and different than a lot of the other red state Democrat battles this year because of the fact that Manchin is who he is too. So it'll be an interesting race in West Virginia.
All right, Morrissey's going to win. I'm just predicting that. All right, Indiana, Republican challenger Mike Braun and incumbent Democrat Joe Donnelly.
Yeah, Braun's somebody who's really impressing me at the kickoff of the general election here because he was able to put some heat on Joe Donnelly in Indiana over not meeting with Brett Kavanaugh, and then all of a sudden, right after he comes out with pressure calling out Donnelly on this, then Donnelly schedules a meeting with Kavanaugh, or at least agrees that he's going to meet with Kavanaugh. Again at the overturning directions from Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer was directing Democrat members to not meet with Brett Kavanaugh.
Okay, now this is Corey Lewandowski's upset special. He's got it on my radar screen, although I'm not a believer. In New Jersey, Bob Huggin and Democratic Senator Bob Menendez.
Yeah, look, you're talking to the guy who broke the scandal with Menendez back in 2012.
I know.
To his indictment, and he is in serious trouble. The polls, there's been a number of polls that show Huggin within 2 to 4 points in New Jersey. I don't know if that'll hold, but it's definitely within the realm of possibility.
Well, every week, Lewandowski keeps telling me, look, you got to watch this New Jersey race. You got to go there. You got to figure it out. And I'm like, come on, I'm not going to New Jersey. What are you, crazy? I'm not going to New Jersey. Forget it. I grew up there. I hate the place.
Menendez in his primary had only 60-something% of the vote against a candidate who didn't even raise enough money to file like an FEC report or something, right? Like she was a do-nothing, know-nothing candidate. No-name candidate and got 30-something% of the vote. The people in New Jersey, the working class there, which is really strong, they understand that Bob Menendez is one of the most corrupt people in American history, and they would like to see him removed. And so the question is can Huggin offer them an acceptable alternative? And he's been running an interesting campaign, and so we've been watching it very closely at Breitbart, and he's been talking about his slogan is a Democrat kind of Republican. That's how he's kind of running it. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Huggin really gives Menendez a run for his money in New Jersey.
All right, we're gonna find out. Mike Rubino just walked in. Rubino's from New Jersey, aren't you, Mike? Aren't you from New Jersey? Yeah, Rubino's from New Jersey. So
I'm
from
fan
New
of
Jersey.
Mike Rubino. He's one of the solid warriors for the MAGA agenda.
Well, I know he is, but he was from South Jersey, and I'm from the other end of the state. And of course, we never really went to South Jersey. We were afraid of what was down there back when I grew up. We stayed around the Jersey City area in Bayonne. I got to take off. Matt Boyle, thanks. I'll see you next week, man. Great to have you with us. Great rundown. Matt Boyle, political editor for Breitbart News. Go to Breitbart.com, download their app, put it on your phone, wake up, hit the button. You'll get informed. No fake news there. Matt, thank you, man. Great to have you.